The Elegy written in a country churchyard by Thomas Gray. This is part second of this presentation. In continuation of part first of the poem, the summary of the poem was being discussed. The hooting of owl adds to the gloom, since it appears to be complaining about persons that go near her lonely living place. There is no companion for the poet at that time except darkness. In such an atmosphere, the poet is found by himself by the side of the churchyard. The melancholy atmosphere is suited to the poem. Let us now discuss the theme of this poem. The elegy written in a country churchyard mourns the deaths not of great people but of common men, and it meditates on the nature of human mortality. That in death there is no difference between great and common people. If among the lowly people buried in the churchyard there had been any natural poets or politicians whose talent had simply never been discovered or nurtured, such graves that contain common people had no chance to show their talent. They might have been politicians or poets. There are a number of classical elements present in the poem. The use of alternately quatrains of iambic pentameters. These are already present in Dryden. The use of abstract personification. For example, ambition, grandeur, etc. The universality of themes. For example, death, obscurity, contentment, etc. The idyllic view of country life, the excessive time required to polish each stanza, thus excluding immediacy of inspiration, clear influence of poetic classics such as Dante, opening lines, Lucretius, stanza 6, Petrarch, the ending of the poem. All these classical elements make this poem unique. Let us now see what graveyard poetry is. Graveyard poetry is a type of poetry which presents a melancholic reflection on mortality, framed in narratives involving visits to graveyards and other reminders of deaths. One of the most celebrated examples of this type of verse is Thomas Gray's Elegy written in a country churchyard. With its personal and introspective concerns, such verse has been as significant as part of a transitional phase between publicly focused neoclassical verse and romantic lyricism, and it is of interest as a stepping stone in literary history. Involving a focus upon loss and with extensive analysis of feelings, such verse played a part in the wider culture of sensibility. Let us now discuss the meter and rhyme scheme in which Gray has written this poem. The elegy written in a country churchyard is in four-line stanzas. These are called quatrains. In each quatrain, each line is in iambic pentameter, which has 5 pairs of syllables for a total of 10 syllables. In each pair, the first syllable is unstressed or unaccented, and the second is stressed or accented. For example, In the two lines that open the poem, the curfew tolls the knell of a parting day, the lowing herd wind slowly over the lea. The capitalized letters are accented or stressed, and the letters which are not in capital are unstressed or unaccented. In each stanza, the first line rhymes with the third, and the second line rhymes with the fourth. This means that the rhyme scheme of each quatrain is AB AB. Let us now consider this quatrain as an example. Now fares the glimmering landscape on the sight, and all the air a solemn stillness holds, save where the beetle wheels his droning flight, and drowsy tinklings lull the distant folds. The first line has sight as its last word, and the third line has flight as its last word. These two rhyme with each other, sight and flight. Similarly, the last words of the second and fourth lines, holds and folds, rhyme with each other, thus giving a rhyme scheme of AB AB to each quatrain.
The speaker uses sad diction and symbols such as owl, death, grave, sleep. Also, the owl symbolizes death. The setting of the poem is mid 1700s, about a decade before the Industrial Revolution began in England. The place is the cemetery of a church. Evidence indicates that the church is Saint Giles in the small town of Stoke Poges, Buckinghamshire in southern England. Gray himself is buried in that cemetery. William Penn, the founder of Pennsylvania, once mentioned a manor house at Stoke Poges. A number of figures of speech that have been used in the poem, we will discuss them one by one. Alliteration. Alliteration is a term used to describe a literary device in which a series of words begin with the same consonant sound. For example, in line third, ploughman homeward plods his weary way. The repetition of W in weary way alliterate. Similarly, the cock's shrill clarion or the echoing horn in line 13. In line number 88, nor cast one longing, lingering look behind. There is alliteration of L. In line 107, now drooping, woeful when like one forlorn. Alliteration of W. And lastly, in line 108, or crazed with care or crossed in hopeless love. There is alliteration of C. Metaphor. Metaphor is a figure of speech that describes an object or action in a way that isn't literally true but helps explain an idea or make a comparison. For example, he was like a lion in the battle. This is a simile, but if we say he was a lion in the battle, it indicates a metaphor. In this quatrain, from the elegy written in a country churchyard, full many a gem of purest ray serene, the dark, unfathomed caves of ocean bare, full many a flower is born to blush unseen, and waste its sweetness on the desert air. The comparison of dead village people to gems and flowers is a metaphor that has been used. Metonymy. Metonymy is a figure of speech consisting of the use of the name of one thing for that of another, of which it is an attribute or with which it is associated. For example, crown in lands belonging to the crown. It is use of a word or phrase to suggest a related word or phrase. In this poem, to scatter plenty over a smiling land. Land stands for people. Personification. Personification is when you give an animal or object qualities or attributes that only human can have. This creative literary tools adds interest and fun to poems or stories. Personification is what writers use to bring non-human things to life. In lines 29 to 32 in this poem, in this particular quatrain, let not ambition mock their useful toil, their homely joys and destiny obscure, nor grandeur hear with a disdainful smile the short and simple annals of the poor. Ambition and grandeur take on human characteristics. The inanimate objects are made animate, are treated as animate objects. In line 49 and 50, but knowledge to their eyes her ample page, rich with the spoils of time, did never unroll. Notice that knowledge becomes a person, a female. This is what is personification.